We had to heat our bath water on the wood-burning stove in the kitchen. Our tub was on the back porch. Now, you didn't get out there in the wintertime and take a bath. No way. But in the summer and spring and fall, it was delightful. And the Arkansas people would come, and they'd look at the tub, and they'd stand there, and they'd wonder what in the world was wrong with us Northerners that we would have a tub with feet on the porch. Well, they didn't have a tub, period. At least we had a tub. We churned our own butter, and that was my job. I got promoted from the chicken roost to churning butter. Sometimes we had margarine. My job was to put the yellow coloring in it, in the margarine, if we had that, and to keep working it so it looked like butter. But it didn't taste like butter. Oh, it tasted like lard. When we churned butter, it would start with just a fleck of golden color, and then more and more and more and more and more, and it was fun to do. Now, sometimes the cows got in stick onion weeds, and then the milk tasted awful. Oh, it was, oh my God, I can't tell you what it tasted. It was terrible. But we had to drink it because it was good, and just because it wasn't tasty, you know, we lived there and we didn't have money to run to the store and buy milk. I never got used to that taste. It was terrible. We used the wood-burning stove for heating, for cooking, and heating the irons to iron our clothes. We would keep 3 irons hot when we ironed. And there was a lot of, I don't know how my mother cooked on that stove. You know, when you baked stuff, you just put it in. You know, there was no temperature there that said 350 degrees. I don't know how she did it. You know, and of course I didn't care. Because I wasn't planning on doing it. There was a lot of work to do on the farm. Not just in the kitchen, not counting feeding all the stock and the chickens and working in the fields. It was a good thing that Ma and I worked fast. Both of us were fast workers, and Richard had to do his share too, but he worked like Pa, slowly. We had pastures planted for hay. We had a hoist on the top front of the barn. We hoisted hay for the winter with the help of Kit and John and filled the whole top of the barn up with hay. We had to learn to do so many new chores, things we never did before. We were city people, and it was hard. The only thing that got us through was my mother was very inventive. She could invent anything, and she could repair anything, and she was very strong and not afraid to work. You know, that was how we got through. Once the cows got into the vegetable area, oh my God, it was almost dark, and Ma and Richard and I were chasing them out to the pasture, and I fell against the barbed wire, and I got a real big, deep cut on my upper leg. I still got a nice, lovely scar there. We didn't go to town to the doctor. That would have been too hard with no car. We'd have to run a quarter of a mile to the relatives. So we taped it up, and it healed. But I can show you the big scar. There were times when I worked picking green beans for $1 a day to make some spending money for me, and it was lots of bending. One time, Junie and Velma came to visit me, and all 3 of us went and picked beans. But it seemed more like fun that day. You know, we're laughing and talking. And we went to a movie in town. Saturday afternoon they had movies, and we went with our bean-picking paycheck. The movie hall was very small, with no seats, only wooden benches, so there was a lot of scraping noises, benches moving back and forth. And boy, a lot of Southern comments while the movie was on. Oh God, that was so funny. They'd say the funniest things. I wish I could remember some of the things. Oh, jeez, we were hysterical just listening to them. Forget the movie. That was almost a movie in itself. Dad would come when he could, and then Kit and John would pull the wagon with Dad at the reins, and Richard and Ma and I would walk behind throwing rocks into the wagon. And that's how we cleared the fields. Trouble was, the rocks grow in Arkansas, and there's always a new crop coming up every year.